Good morning, everyone. Today is the 19th of December, 2024, Thursday. And every time I look at the words in red in a book, I am reminded that this is the God of the universe speaking to us. You know? That's why the translators put the words in red to signify that this is the Son of God speaking. Now, Mark has been reading through the book of Luke, and today he's going to be reading for us the 7th chapter of Luke. Luke is much more wordy than Mark. This chapter talks about Christ entering into Capernaum, and there was a centurion servant who the centurion really had a lot of regard for his servant. His servant was sick, and he had heard of Jesus, and he sent unto him the elders of the Jews, beseeching Jesus that he would come and heal his servant. And when they came to Jesus, they besought him instantly, saying that he was worthy for whom he should do this, for he loveth our nation, and built a synagogue. And Jesus went in, and when he was not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to saying, Lord, trouble not thyself, I'm not worthy that thou shouldst enter under my roof. And I didn't even feel worthy to come unto thee, but say in a word, my servant shall be healed. And he said, I have authority. I send people to go and do things, and they do it because I'm in authority to tell them what to do, and you're in authority. And when Jesus heard these things, he said unto the people, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, not in Israel. Well, we need to be reminded where this man's faith came from. It didn't come from himself. It came from God. God gave him the faith to believe that Jesus Christ had all power. And of course, when they returned to his house, they found the servant whole that had been sick. And then after that, they went in the city called Nain, and quite a number of his disciples went with him. A lot of people were there, and he came to the gate of the city, and there was a dead man carried out. And this mother only had this one child, and he was dead, and she was a widow, and a lot of people in the city were with her. And when the Lord saw her, he had compassion on her and told her to weep not. And he came and touched the bier, and they that bare him stood still and said, Young man, and he said, Christ, Young man, I say unto thee, arise. And it says, and he that was dead sat up and began to speak. So Jesus delivered this son back to his life, to his mother. And of course, when people saw this, great fear came upon all the people. And, here's a sign, another sign of the power of Jesus Christ to raise the dead, from dead to life. And then John sent two of his disciples to Jesus, John the Baptist, and wanted them to ask Jesus, are you the one that should come, or should we look for another? And Jesus said, go your way and tell John what things you have seen and heard, how that the blind see, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, to the poor the gospel is preached. And blessed is whoever shall not be offended in me. And then he started talking about John the Baptist, how he was a prophet, much more than a prophet. And in fact, Jesus Christ said of John the Baptist, among all those that have been born of women, there is not a greater than John the Baptist. And so, but of course the Pharisees and the lawyers rejected the counsel of God against this generation, against themselves being not baptized of John the Baptist. And Christ told them, you said that John the Baptist had a devil. And the Son of Man is coming and eating and drinking. You say, behold, a gluttonous man and a winebibber and a friend of publican sinners. That's what they said about Christ. And he says, wisdom is justified of all of her children. I think what that means is that Christ is the one who gives life to whom he chooses. And then one of the Pharisees wanted Christ to eat with him. And so he went into this Pharisee's house, and this woman from the city brought in an alabaster box of ointment and anointed his feet with it. And they started making accusations against Christ because he was associating with this woman because she was a great sinner. And they said, this man, if he were a prophet, would have known what man or woman this is. Jesus then addressed Simon, this Pharisee that brought him into his house, and said, gave him a story about the creditor. And he said to Simon, seeing thou this woman, I entered into thy house, thou gavest me no water for my feet, but she has washed my feet with tears and wiped them with the hairs of her head. Thou gavest me no kiss, but the woman, since the time came in, have not ceased to kiss my feet. My head with oil thou didst not anoint, but this woman hath anointed my feet with ointment. Wherefore I say unto thee, her sins which are many are forgiven. But to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little. And he said unto her, thy sins are forgiven thee. Well, that really caused a stir among the people, and they began to say, who is this that forgiveth sins? And then Jesus said to the woman, thy faith has saved thee, go in peace. Well, back to the question again. Where did her faith come from? Where did her faith come from? I'm going to turn this over to Mark. Have him read this, chapter 7 of Luke. But we should always remember when we read the Gospels, the words in red are spoken by the very Son of God.
Luke chapter 7. Now when he had ended all his sayings in the audience of the people, he entered into Capernaum. And a certain centurion servant who was dear unto him was sick and ready to die. When he heard of Jesus, he sent unto him the elders of the Jews, beseeching him that he would come and heal his servant. When they came to Jesus, they besought him instantly, saying he was worthy for whom he should do this. If he loveth our nation, he hath built us a synagogue. Then Jesus went with them, and when he was now not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying unto him, Lord, trouble not thyself, for I am not worthy that thou shouldest enter under my roof. Wherefore, neither thought I myself worthy to come unto thee, but saying a word, and my servant shall be healed. For I also am a man set under authority, having under me soldiers. And I say unto one, Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh. My servant do this, and he doeth it. When Jesus heard these things, he marveled at him, and turned him about, and said unto the people that followed him, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. They that were sent, returning to the house, found the servant whole that had been sick. It came to pass the day after that he went into a city called Nain, and many of his disciples went with him, and much people. Now when he came nigh unto the gate of the city, behold, there was a dead man carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow with much people. The city was with her. The Lord saw her, he had compassion on her, and said unto her, Weep not. He came and touched the bier, and they that bare him stood still. And he said, Young man, I say unto thee, arise. He that was dead sat up and began to speak, and he delivered him to his mother. There came a fear on all, and they glorified God, saying that a great prophet is risen up among us, and that God hath visited his people. This rumor of him went forward throughout all Judea and through all the region round about. Disciples of John showed him of all these things. John, calling unto him 2 of his disciples, sent unto Jesus, saying, Art thou he that should come, or look we for another? When the men were coming unto him, they said, John Baptist hath sent us unto thee, saying, Art thou he that should come, or look we for another? In that same hour he cured many of their infirmities and plagues of evil spirits, and to many that were blind he gave sight. And Jesus answered and said unto them, Go your way, and tell John what things ye have seen and heard, how the blind see, and lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, the deaf hear, the dead are raised, the poor the gospel is preached. Blessed is he, whosoever shall not be offended in me. The messenger of John were departed, he began to speak unto the people concerning John. What went ye out into the wilderness for to see a reed shaken with the wind? But what went ye out for to see a man clothed in soft raiment? Behold, they which are gorgeously apparelled and live delicately are in king's courts. What went ye out for to see a prophet? Yea, I say unto you, much more than a prophet. This is he of whom it is written, Behold, I send my messenger before thy face, which shall prepare thy way before thee. For I say unto you, among those that are born of women, there is not a greater prophet than John the Baptist. But he that is least in the kingdom of God is greater than he. And all the people that heard him, publicans justified God, being baptized with the baptism of John. The Pharisees and lawyers reject the counsel of God against themselves, being not baptized of him. The Lord said, Whereunto then shall I liken the men of this generation? And what are they like? They are like the children sitting in the marketplace, and calling one to another, and saying, We have piped unto you. Ye have not danced, we have mourned to you, and ye have not wept. For John the Baptist came neither eating bread nor drinking wine, and ye say he hath a devil. The Son of Man is come eating and drinking, and ye say, Behold, a gluttonous man, a winebibber, a friend of publicans and sinners. Wisdom is justified of all her children. And one of the Pharisees desired him that he would eat with him. He went to the Pharisee's house and sat down to meat. Behold, a woman in the city which was a sinner, when she knew that Jesus sat at meat in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster box of ointment, and stood at his feet behind him, weeping, began to wash his feet with tears, and did wipe them with the hairs of her head, and kissed his feet, and anointed them with the ointment. Now when the Pharisee which had bidden him saw it, he spake within himself, saying, This man, if he were a prophet, would have known who and what manner of woman this is that toucheth him, for she is a sinner. Jesus answered and said to him, Simon, I have somewhat to say unto thee. And he saith, Master, say on. There was a certain creditor which had 2 debtors, the one owed 500 pence, the other 50. When they had nothing to pay, frankly forgave them both. Tell me therefore, which of them will love him most? Simon answered and said, I suppose that he to whom he forgave most. And he said to him, Thou hast rightly judged. He turned to the woman and said unto Simon, Seest thou this woman? I entered into thine house, and gavest me no water for my feet. But she hath washed my feet with tears, and wiped them with the hairs of her head. Thou gavest me no kiss, but this woman since the time I came in hath not ceased to kiss my feet, my head with oil thou didst not anoint, this woman hath anointed my feet with ointment. Wherefore I say unto thee, her sins, which are many, are forgiven, for she loved much, but to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little. He said unto her, thy sins are forgiven. And they that sat at meat with him began to say within themselves, who is this to forgive his sins also? He said to the woman, thy faith hath saved thee, go in peace.
Well, that's what he said to all of his elect. Thy faith has saved thee, go in peace. And we know that he's the author and finisher of our faith. May the good Lord be with you today is my prayer.